Welcome to Beyond Bite Wings, the business side of dentistry, brought to you by Edwards & Associates PC. Join us as we discuss how to build your dental practice, optimize your income, and plan for your future. This podcast is distributed with the understanding that Edwards & Associates PC is not rendering legal, accounting, or professional advice. Listeners should consult with their business advisors before acting on any of the information that is shared. At Edwards & Associates PC, our business is the business of dentistry. For help or more information, visit our website at enassociates.com. Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond Bite Wings. And in today's episode, we will be covering part 3 of our series about the biggest challenges that our dentists are facing today. And to talk further about it, we have our continuing guest, Erin.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, it's always a pleasure. So, the biggest challenge is, we already covered 2 episodes. We talked quite a bit, but I feel like we saved some of the best things or the most asked about things for this episode, the last episode, and might actually be a little bit longer than our earlier 2 episodes, but I think our audience will appreciate it. Recap episode 2, I think the last thing we spoke about was patient communication and engagement. We also talked about the importance of it. Mm-hmm. We also talked about why we should pay extra attention to it, especially in the service industry for dental practice. So now let's shift a little bit more towards the side that we feel, as a business owner, and we know it's happening, or maybe I'm becoming a victim of it, but it's not talked about as much. I mean, it's gotten better over the years, but it's something that I feel like needs to be mentioned specifically on an episode, so it's brought to light and people talk about it, and that is the mental well-being, right?
Yeah.
And what are some of the things that can be done to avoid burnout? Now, we did one episode on it, right? Where, we had an expert who came in and talked about some grounding exercises, and those are all good. But let's also talk a little bit about this. As an entrepreneur yourself, Erin. I'm sure it's not always the ups when you're running a business, right?
Yeah. Speak for yourself, Ash. This is smooth sailing. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that was just me.
This is easy. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think it's, if you look on social media, you get this wrong impression, although it's an impression, that everybody's out hustling, right? And if you just hustle harder and grind and do all the things, like, you'll just magically get this to this place you want to go to. Right. And there's so much to that. Like, I always talk about the orange dot, and hustling. To me, I had this number in my head that when I had this much money in savings, that was my orange dot. Like, I didn't have to hustle anymore. Everything would be okay and everything was good. You do it with your business, right? If we just have this many clients, if we have this. And then you reach that point and you're like, oh, like, I didn't magically feel okay, right? Like, nothing, it didn't fix what I thought it was going to fix. And then it's just, okay, I got to hustle harder. I had to hustle harder. And there's never, you feel like you're going to hit, if I just hustle to this point, if I can get this much staff in place, if I can just get this down, this many patients, I'm going to be able to breathe.
I see.
And there's so much more to that than just hitting those things. And I feel like people are running themselves ragged.
Absolutely.
Hitting goals and not being happy with those goals and then continue to run. And there's no place to rest until we physically have to rest, right? And that usually is a lot more worse than what it should be. Right.
And wouldn't you say there's some effort involved with this where you actually have to be intentional about resting?
100%. Taking a vacation and actually turning off. Like, I'm so guilty of this. The kids will go to bed. Okay, I'll get a little bit done. And you never shut down.
Yes.
And it's so unhealthy.
Yes. Yeah, winding down. I mean, we talk about it, as a cliche, but, there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, whatever that timeline is, you need to tell yourself that I need to wind down.
Yeah.
Right? And that's important. And again, another cliche to throw out there. To maintain good mental well-being, you have to practice balance.
Yes.
Work-life balance. And we know about it. We talk about it with our friends. We probably, listen about it on a podcast. But I feel like there's not enough of us actually practicing it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where the intention comes in. I mean, in my personal life, you know, I was a victim of it where, you know, I was always goal oriented.
Yeah.
I was just like, you know, I'm not going to feel good about myself or reward myself till I reach a goal. And then once I would reach my milestone, you're right, I would celebrate it, you know, like go out with my friends or whatever. But then I'm not feeling what I thought I would.
What's next?
What's next? Maybe, you know, this isn't enough. Maybe I've grown. Maybe I need more. And then it's a constant hustle. There's the constant chase. But later, after getting some professional help, I realized that it's not about the destination, you know, I mean.
Right. The end goal. Yeah.
Right. It's about the journey and practicing it regularly where, you know, there's only a limited amount of time per day. And you need to figure out what are your priorities in life. If you have a family, are they important? If you have work, is that important? If you have a hobby, is that important? If you have friends, are they important? If you have family around you that you want to connect with, are they important? And then allocating dedicated times for that and actually being true to yourself and authentic. Bring out your authentic self in those periods. So when you're with your friends, just be with your friends.
Exactly.
When you're with your family, just be with your family. When you're at work, focus on work.
Yeah.
Now, I know it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Because, let's face it, especially if you're new to opening a dental practice, there's so many challenges. Not everything can be, you know, forecasted ahead of time or, you know, planned ahead of time. So you run into these issues. But even with that, I mean, that's the normal course of any business, really. And you have to adapt. And you need to figure out how do I place certain systems in place where I could be more efficient with my time, and how do I not overlap some of the things that I'm taking care of. And taking things one at a time, I think goes a long way.
I like that too.
If you have like multiple things that require addressing, address one thing at a time.
Yeah.
And don't, again, go back to like, oh, you know, my dental assistant told me this, and there might be a potential drama coming up. Okay, I should probably, you know, nip it in the bud. I need to talk about it. But then somebody came in and said, hey, I need a raise, otherwise I'm quitting. So, you know, just maybe getting a piece of paper and writing those thoughts down.
Yeah.
And then to look at them individually can go a long way.
Yep.
Right. And again, it varies from person to person. I'm just speaking from my personal experience. That has done wonders for me.
Yeah.
But again, if you think that's something that you're going through, right, where you feel very tired, stressed, nearing burnout, seek help.
Yeah.
You know, seek some professional help, find a good therapist out there, and then talk to them. Goes a long way. You know, investing in yourself is also investing into the business, because if you're feeling good, if you bring a good energy, good vibe, bring that positivity into your work culture, employees can see that and it resonates with them.
Yeah.
And it can go a long way, you know, even in terms of numbers.
Yeah.
So, you know, something to think about. And I will give you some stats here. Out of all the industries, the dental world, so number of suicides are quite high amongst dentists.
That's terrible.
And a lot of it is attributed to burnout.
Yeah.
Right? It's just the workload or, you know, juggling different things. They just get to a point where it gets very, very unmanageable. Mm-hmm. But I'm here with Erin on this episode to tell you, you know, it can be managed. Just go seek the help that you think you need. Right? So very important. Anything else?
No, I think the biggest thing to your point is just don't ignore it. Don't, you know what I mean? Like, don't, okay, I'm just kind of going through a spell. Like, I just had something recently where I felt dead every day. Like, couldn't get through the day. Went to the doctor, had blood work done. There was a lot of stuff off, right? So there was, you know, I was trying to power through. Oh, I'm just stressed right now. It'll be okay. Took on a lot. Don't ignore these things. Like you said, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whether it's a combination of both.
Right.
Don't be afraid to seek help, because it's a season. I know it's hard, but you need help getting through this particular season. Right.
Absolutely. All right. That brings to our next point, which is data security and privacy. I mean, I don't think I have to talk much about it, just to expand on it a little bit. In today's era, you know, we're keeping records digitally.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone is. You know, those days are gone where they're tons of file cabinets in one room where you're storing patient records. Now, with that, that's good. It's efficient. It's cost effective. You don't require a space dedicated to maintain patient records. But there are also some downsides to it. In the digital era, you also have some bad people, let's say, that are constantly training themselves on how to attack your server or wherever you maintain these records to get hold of some of the confidential information that's there. Because as we all know, some of this information can be sold on the black market, right?
Yeah.
And it's valuable. So what do you need to do as someone that's holding that precious information of your patients to minimize those risks? So something that I always recommend is, especially if you've gotten to a point where you're maintaining a lot of those records, and if you don't already have some internal controls to minimize risks, seek professional help.
100%.
Go to a cybersecurity specialist. That's what they do. In fact, we interviewed one in one of our episodes where she said that once she's engaged, her team actually attacks the organization just to find out the weak spots.
Yeah.
And to my surprise, I found out that something as minute as like a wireless printer could be the gateway for these hackers to get into your system. That blew my mind. I'm like, wait, you're supposed to maintain certain security measures even on your wireless printer? But that's the thing. Like, I'm not a cybersecurity specialist.
Yeah.
I doubt my dental clients are. So some of these things are unknown to us.
Yeah.
So that's when, you should consider seeking the help of someone who can help you with this.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's going to save you money in the long run.
Well, and one of the things I heard too, and it might have been through Aisha, your guest, but it's that a lot of these companies now, they love like dental offices. They love these types of smaller businesses because they know there's a really good chance they don't have these protocols and they can hold your stuff ransom. And so it's an easy 10, 20 grand. Like they're going to go for more money of the bigger companies. But like for you, it's like, all right, pay us 10, 20 grand. We'll give it back to you. And you're freaking out. You're like, I need this, like I can't. And it's just an easy, quick buck for them, and they can do this all day long on small businesses.
Wow.
So
crazy.
yeah. So it's not one of those things you want to just, well, we're not, we're good. We've got some passwords, whatever. Like, be careful with it. So you could definitely seek professional advice.
Oh, I agree. And these attacks are getting more and more vicious over time. They're getting more creative.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie. Before it was just, there's a link in my email. Let me click on it. But these days, there's just so many different kinds of ways they can attack your business if they want to. So that's if you're going to hire a professional expert. But there are also some measures that you can take internally. So for instance, regular software updates, something as simple as that, just making sure all your software are protected with the newest patch that's available. And then educating your staff with some best practices for data security, to prevent from having your patient information be leaked.
Yeah.
That also goes a long way. So I would say at the very least, doing this at a minimum can help you face some of those challenges.
Yep.
All right. Now this one's going to be a favorite, I can tell.
Okay.
Last minute patient cancellations. Yeah. In the ADA, I believe it was December of 2023, there was a panel survey of the economic outlook and emerging issues in dentistry. They said that there's been a lot of that going on in the recent years. They're saying that about 85%, I believe, on average, just over the last few months. So this is the survey that was done December of 2023. But 85% on average, just over the last few months prior to December, they've seen an increase in patient cancellations. And it was last minute. And, people have hunches, like what's going on and what has changed, especially if somebody's been in business for numerous years, maintaining a business model that, let's just say, isn't that effective anymore. To them, it would come as a big surprise. It's like, what's changing?
Right. Do you think COVID changed it, though?
You know what? I think COVID does have a lot to do with that.
Because, prior to COVID, you would, you got a snuffly nose, you had whatever, you go, right? Then when COVID happened, it was like, dude, I I have a cough. Oh my gosh, stay home, right? And
Right.
it became very okay with suddenly, all of a sudden it was like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, I can come in, but I might have COVID. Do you really want me in the office? No, stay home. And so canceling was not the faux pas that it was, because you were protecting everybody, right?
Right. That's true.
And I'm curious if we just never, like, if we kind of got used to, well, sorry, maybe I'm sick, or maybe I just feel like we got really laxed on it because we were being so cautious. They couldn't charge you if you were going to bring COVID into the office, right?
That's true.
And I wonder if we just never got back from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting you mention that, because a lot of practices do have a system in place of that sort to minimize this. Where,
Yeah.
if you're a no-show within a certain time frame, then they'll charge you.
Yeah.
Regardless. Now, I have my personal opinion about that. I think it may be good with a practice that has a very high number of this.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that should be your first go-to option.
Right.
I think you need to really assess what's going on and what's causing these last-minute cancellations, and then address it. If you truly see that it has something to do with your demographics and not so much with how your company's operating or the services you're providing or even the pricing of the services you're providing, then maybe. The other thing I also recommend is, in this day and age, it's also very hard to find new patients and to keep them, right?
Yeah.
Like have them become an ongoing patient. So when you're punishing someone for maybe this person had a legitimate reason, it reflects negatively. So maybe have some rules in place where if it's a one-time offense, no charge.
Right.
But if it keeps happening, then maybe. But again, I think I would like to go back to my initial worry regarding this is there must be something going on for which they're doing their last minute patient cancellations.
I feel like it's such a respect thing. I don't know. Like, I feel like it, as a business owner, I see people come in and, like, we're talking podcasts. You've had it happen where, like, I get stuff happens. However, I also am a firm believer of when you make a commitment, stand up to your commitment. There are people who their business is depending on you, their livelihood. And if you don't have the decency for a 24-hour notice, unless you're like, I get when you wake up and things are like you're sick or your kid's sick. Like, I'm a mom, I get it.
Right.
I don't know. I feel like there is a level of a loss of respect for each other that I feel like we just deal with it.
Yeah,
I got stuff going on.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But again, I mean, I have my personal opinion about it too.
Yeah.
It's the same with me. Like, I hate being late to places.
Yes. Oh, gosh.
I'm a big stickler about being
Me too.
punctual. And the other thing is this: if you've made a commitment, then you should show up. I mean, I feel like it'll reflect negatively on me. You know? Like, and my actions speak for how people perceive me. Right?
Yeah.
So if I can't keep to my word, guess what? They're going to think, oh, Ash can't keep his words, and I don't know if they're going to take me seriously going forward. Now, some people may say, well, they're my dentist. It's not like they know my friends or my family members. Why does it matter? But it's more for yourself.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not so much, oh, my dentists don't know the other people that are important to me, but I don't know. I think it's
your
a personal
dentist
thing.
hired staff to be there to take care of you, and they told somebody else no, that they could not have the appointment because you were there, because they were respecting your decision to come into the office, and they were respecting you from that perspective. Would you like it if your dentist was like, well, you know what, something better came along, so you're supposed to come in an hour, but we don't have the appointment for you anymore because somebody better came in?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, it does happen.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one straight answer on how to tackle this.
Yeah.
It will vary case by case. I would suggest talk with your financial advisor or your consultant to help you with this. I mean, I can think of so many different ways. I mean, one was that, like, actually charging them the fees if they don't show up, so they don't repeat this behavior. The other could be where, you incentivize them coming on time, where you say, okay, if you come today, we'll give you so much discount, or, this, we might be able to do 2 of those procedures all in one day because we have the specialist in today, like something to push them to come to you that day when they were originally scheduled.
Yeah.
Now, segueing into this, because they're kind of connected, because we're thinking about revenue, right? From a revenue standpoint. A no-show means, you're not really getting paid for those times that were originally set for them. The other factor is, how do I find new patients? Right? So it's not just for new practice, it's also for an existing practice that's probably trying to grow, and that's something we always recommend to our clients, is that you should always try to grow.
Yeah.
And something we were actually discussing before we started recording, right? Which is, growth doesn't happen if
you're not struggling.
Yeah. Right? So,
or not, I don't want to say struggling, but trying new things, being challenged. We'll say that.
Exactly. I think I like those choice of words better.
Yeah.
So struggling and realizing that you have these challenges, and then properly adapting to it, right? You may have implemented a certain business model for a set period of time and it worked wonders for you. But with the changing times, with the growing competition, with the changing economy, you also need to keep up with that. So kind of identifying first, okay, so this is how I actually address a challenge. This is my tip. So here, you guys can write this down. Whenever you're faced with a challenge, I feel like you should get a piece of paper and first write down your challenges, like the problems, the actual problems. So for instance, okay, so I am having trouble finding new patients. All right, so if it's just that one problem, then go to the next section and write down, what do you think are the reasons for not getting the new patients? So if it's like, okay, the intake process could be better. My front desk people aren't all that bubbly or charming.
Yeah.
The other thing could be the patients themselves, right, may have relocated or transitioned to a work from home job.
Yeah.
Right. That's becoming more and more common these days. And then unfortunately, the increased layoffs in certain industries also have an issue. The other thing is, when the turnover rate, I don't know if you know this. So about 5 years ago, the turnover rate, and this is for all industries, not just the dental industry, I think the average was about 2 years. Do you know what that is now, today?
No. Like a patient turnover?
No, not a patient, like for an employee.
Oh, no. Okay,
turnover. 7 months.
Wow.
7 months. And companies know this. Recruiters know this. They don't ding someone anymore for having experience at one location for less than a year. As long as it's above 7 months, they're like, okay, that's fine.
Wow. So 8 months is good.
That's good. So it's becoming more common.
Wow.
And with that, we have to talk about benefits a little bit. So not all employers offer benefits from the same insurance company. I mean, they may have a dental plan. And let's assume in this hypothetical scenario, there's person A, the employee, who worked for company X. Company X offered dental insurance with Cigna. Employee A left that job, goes to company Y, and now they have a different kind of dental plan. Now, for them to continue to go to their dentist, they need to make sure that their dentist still is in network with this new dental insurance. So that's also another thing that I always recommend is, let's say you are located in a town that has companies like Toyota, Dr. Pepper, Snapple, Ericsson, what have you. Find out which insurance companies they're using for the dental plans. And if your office is located near those offices, those corporate offices or people that, in cities where the employees of those corporate offices stay in, if you're located there, try to see if you can get in network with those insurance companies. That will help you. The other ones, not so popular, and you should be able to do this if you've been running your practice for about 6 months. You do a study on the demographics that comes through, and you realize, most of the people I get are PPO folks, and it seems that most of them are using Cigna or most of them are using Delta Dental. Then figure out, okay, I need to keep this in network.
Okay. That's a good idea.
And the other thing is to make sure that your reimbursement rate is negotiated to the highest amount possible.
Yeah, so it's worth it.
Since it's worth it. So again, just to touch upon another topic we talked about in a previous episode. So dropping out of PPOs is good, generally speaking, but again, it will vary from case by case. So again, talk to an expert to see if it's something you can implement with positive benefits instead of, negative impacts.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is lack of support staff. So we talked a little bit about this, right? I believe it was in episode 1 where we talked about the challenges of finding someone or finding good quality staff members to help. And that trickles down to also the patients that walk through your doors.
Right.
Right. So if you're not working with good support staff that, let's say, they're not as efficient, or their delivery during the intake process, or whenever they're taking payments from the patients is not memorable or is not part of a good experience, that can also impact the experience right, of your existing patients. And the reason why I mention this is because a good chunk of your new patients also come from word of mouth.
Yeah.
So it's not just investing in a marketing company that's going to help you with your SEO, Google reviews, but you also need to take steps internally to make sure that the other factor, the word of mouth, is also working in favor of you to find new patients.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying marketing companies are not great. Some dental-specific marketing companies that we've seen our clients work with, they do wonders, right?
But it's a combination, right? You can't just rely on one or the other.
Right, exactly. And it's teamwork.
Yes.
That's something I always tell people,
100%.
that it's not that, you just hire someone and you forget about it. No. That expert is there to help you.
Right.
Will really minimize the amount of time you've been spending on that particular challenge, but it doesn't mean that it's completely offhand.
Right.
You're at the end of the day, you're still the business owner. You still have to keep an eye on things.
Yep.
Right. So your number of leads, number of patients that are not rescheduling, or are your employees, staff happy? How are they interacting? What's the culture like? Is all of those things, you still have to keep an eye on it.
Yep.
But even though you may have experts telling you how to go about it.
Yep.
All right. After this, I have the very last point.
Okay.
Which is new dental technology in 2024 continues to develop. And that's true with every year. I mean, we're recording right now in 2024, so we're going to talk about what's going on in 2024. But that's also another challenge. Now, a new practice, not so much.
Right.
Where I've noticed that before anyone starts a new practice, they do an immense amount of research. And they will make sure that all the new toys and new software that can help them be efficient, provide more services, be more cost effective, they're going to implement that. But let's say the same person runs his business for about 5-6 years and things have changed.
Yeah.
Right? But they're so used to doing things a certain way, using the equipment that they already have, that they may not be aware of what has changed, and they may actually lose patience to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. You actually mentioned in a previous episode that, hey, Ash, let's say I go into a dentist and I need some work done, but then the dentist realizes, I have to go to a different specialist because I don't have the equipment. I'm going to think, okay, you know what? I would rather go to a dentist where I don't have to schedule 3 or 2 separate appointments, because they have the latest and greatest and can be done in one spot in one day. So it's not just about it becoming more efficient in performing those procedures and providing the care that the patient needs, but it also lets the patient know that you care about their time.
Yeah.
Right? You're giving importance to that.
And I would think too, like, you can control the cost that way too, where I can provide, or if I'm sending you off to somebody, they may charge more, they may, like, where you're getting frustrated, right? Where you can keep that more under your own umbrella to your standards.
That's right. That's right. Now, some of this technology we talked about earlier, but I'm going to expand a little bit on them. So number one would be 3D printing. We all know 3D printing eliminates the long, laborious process of having to manually model dental fixtures. Now, 3D printers for dental practices, they basically utilize resins and take far less time to make dentures, crowns, bridges, clear teeth, liners, and other dental fixtures, which is great for both the patient's needs and for your cash flows. So additionally, 3D printing makes implantology simpler and more accurate with the usage of virtual 3D plans that can be easily created on screen and then transferred to basically the operative side. Now, it is true, 3D printers are expensive. They require a decent amount of financial investment, and there is a learning curve, but there is value in the long term, and it is evident. You know, if you talk to your peers, if you talk with other people that have already implemented, they'll all tell you it worked for them.
Yeah.
It was a good decision to make that investment. The second thing would be digital impressions. Let's talk a little bit about that. You know, in the past, dental impressions involved patients basically biting into this like standardized impression tray with some kind of runny polymer material, but those days are behind us, right?
Really?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
I remember those days.
No. These days, you know, you have handheld scanners, in fact, that can create more accurate impressions with very little discomfort to the patient. So maybe look into that as well.
Yeah.
Now, this one's actually my favorite, and I feel like most of my clients have already implemented this, but of course, there's still quite a few out there. So just for them, I'm going to talk about this, which is laser dentistry. You know, it's high tech, it's less painful. It's less painful of an alternative to traditional procedures like, let's say, fillings and gum tissue repair, which are traditionally more invasive and often painful. Laser dentistry is minimally invasive, as you may already know, for both dental procedures and oral surgery. It reduces the need for sutures, it minimizes bleeding, and of course improves patient comfort. And as a bonus, you know, the patient also heals quicker from laser procedures and has a reduced risk of post-op infection. Yeah, so lasers can easily replace dental drills in some procedures like tissue removal and reshaping and filling repairs. So definitely, if you don't have that implemented,
Yeah.
really consider it.
Get that in.
Absolutely. Then comes the intraoral cameras. They are actually becoming more and more popular, believe it or not. I feel like when I was talking with the distribution vendor, he was telling me they're getting more and more orders of these every year.
Interesting.
So that's good. That tells me that, you know, not just my clients, but the dentists overall are quite well versed of the intraoral cameras. And I'm sure they already know how effective they are for their practices to see their patients' mouths on a more detailed level than with, let's say, just manual inspection. You know, you have those weird, hard-to-reach corners. You know, these small handheld devices are being used on routine checkups, restorative work, cosmetic dentistry. So very useful tool. And also, you know, they give dental professionals an edge by having the capability of accessing a clear image of traditionally difficult areas of the mouth. I mean, this helps with their visibility and can also lead to earlier diagnosis and less invasive treatment plans.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then finally, the very last bit. This is something I feel like applies to all businesses, which is how can I implement artificial intelligence or AI into my business? I mean, I'm not a tech guy. I'm not in IT. Is this something I should even bother with? But you'd be surprised.
Yeah, from I know you've talked about, like, I know you had conversations about ChatGPT and like helping with processes and a lot of the what can we do from a front desk perspective? Do you see AI coming into the back end, like robotic procedures or anything like that yet? I know it's
robotic. I'm sure it's in the works. But on the back end, you're right. There are certain AI apps that can actually help diagnose certain materials like radiographic scans to help dentists identify oral disease and develop treatment plans. So it's not just for the writing bit, you know, those email blasts or the recall programs, but they also can help on the back end.
Yeah, interesting.
So yeah. So, and of course, you know, implementing an AI can carry over to preventative and maintenance treatments. And AI assessments they can also generate suggested treatments, believe it or not, to maintain dental work and prevent future dental issues for patients. I mean, they've come really far.
Yeah, that's
it's pretty impressive. Yeah, so gone are those days where, you know, you would just type. I don't know. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if 10, 15 years later, once all these AI platforms have gathered so much information that they can actually predict the future.
Yeah. I mean, it's patterns, right? Like, and if they can read all the patterns,
Yeah.
They probably can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although I would say, I don't know. I feel like we're living in the twilight zone right now, so I don't know if you can.
That's true. I don't know if I'm going to be alive to see it, but I wouldn't be surprised. I'm instantly thinking of like Terminator 2.
Yeah.
in my head. But it would be nice, if we're a part of that.
Yeah.
I mean, AI is already being incorporated into electronic medical systems, EMS in short, to allow for a more streamlined relationship with patients. So I don't think it's too far away, if you ask me.
No.
So that's all we have for part 3. I hope all our listeners learned something, was able to gather some valuable information. And I thank you again, Erin, for being with us on all our episodes. This was an amazing series, and I look forward to working with you again.
Absolutely. Always good to hear what's going on.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for listening today. Be sure to subscribe to Beyond by Wings on your favorite podcast platform. For more information, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, or reach out to us on our website. You can also shoot us an email at info@eandassociates.com.